Came across articles that showed that the key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health. And I thought that's the only thing that really counts. This is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. Nigeria is headed to be the third largest country in the world, 800 million by the end of the century. So actually China will have shrunk by then. Is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Particularly as people get richer, they tend to eat more meat. If we don't do anything, this sector will actually grow over time.
So you're saying not just the fact that there's more people and a larger population, but as people move up towards the middle class, they want to consume more meat.
The one that has gone better than I would have expected 5 years ago is this work to make what's called artificial meat.
Do you eat it as well, or do you like it?
Absolutely.
Eating insects is commonplace in lots of the world. It's just never caught on in the US. But some entrepreneurs think we're ready.
I'm Nicole Kidman, and I am going to eat a 4-course meal of bugs.
So All Things Bugs is my biotechnology company that I founded in 2011. Primarily, it got started to develop a food product for malnourished children using insects as a major food source.
This is a powder derived from the mealworm, and it's a insect protein just been approved by the EU for human consumption.
I am here to reveal my hidden talent, eating micro livestock, cornworms. They're still alive. Extraordinary.
Bill Gates is on a crusade against meat. He wants you to eat plant-based meat, lab-grown meat, and now he even wants you to eat literal bugs. No, really, he actually invested in not one, but 2 startups that are researching how to make bug protein to feed the world. After all, this guy is definitely the guy you want to take health advice from. But why? Why is he so hell-bent on dictating what you can put in your mouth? Is he really that convinced that he knows how to live your life better than you do? Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Stay dangerous and get ready to eat some bugs. In 2012, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation quietly donated $100,000 to a startup called All Things Bugs LLC. Sounds scrumptious, right? The company had humble beginnings. It started as a simple Facebook page for the founder, Dr. Aaron Dossi, to document his bug photography hobby. The guy has a thing for bugs. Somewhere along the lines, he got intrigued by the idea of eating bugs as food, as one would. But being unemployed at the time, he wasn't really going anywhere with the idea, until a friend told him about research grants from the Gates Foundation. Dossi applied on a whim, and he had no idea just how excited Billy would be about his idea. And so Billy dropped $100,000 on All Things Bugs. So with his own savings and that $100K from Bill Gates, the company was born. Their mission statement is simple. We develop sustainable insect-based solutions, technologies, and products for agriculture, food, and medicine. And today they have a hand in nearly every sector of this new emerging bug protein industry.
We've made various food products using those ingredients, alternative meats, pastas, cereals, snacks like cheese curls, tortillas, baked goods.
They were the first company to develop a tolerable insect-based protein powder, Grio Pro, a 100% cricket protein powder that you can buy right now to shove down your throats. They praise this powder for having the lightest color and mildest aroma and flavor of any insect protein available. They guarantee on their website that its smooth texture prevents consumers from noticing any trace of insect particulates, you know, cricket legs and stuff. But they aren't just researching how to make bugs into something that passes as food. No, they're developing technology to mass produce and harvest bugs on a factory farm scale. They've received millions in funding from the US Department of Agriculture, and they've also received funding from DARPA. Yes, you heard that right, DARPA. Why do bug researchers need money from a government defense agency? Well, as it turns out, they're also doing a lot of research into genetically engineering bugs. Sure, their focus is to make bugs into a more nutritious food source, but if the idea of a massive factory of GMO bugs that are ground into a food slurry for humans sounds like the plot of a dystopian sci-fi novel, well, it's because it does. But Bill Gates' bug philanthropy does not stop there. In 2021, the Gates Foundation donated more than $2 million to an insect farm in Kenya called Insecti Pro. They mostly use organic waste to raise fly larvae, flies, which they're using to create animal feed.
Yeah, exactly that. Because they try to look down, they don't like light, so they're going to go through the holes in your hand.
Oh!
Yes, that is right. Even if you would never eat insect protein directly, soon instead of eating a grass-fed steak, you could be eating an insect-fed steak and not even know about it. Yum! They also raise crickets for human consumption, and this farm is just one of many already in mass production, raising over 1 trillion bugs a year to feed both animals and humans. But bug food biolabs and insect farms aren't the only things Bill is doing to eradicate meat. Gates has been touting the potential of plant-based meat at least as early as 2013. He invested nearly $130 million into Beyond Meat in 2019. He's invested even more into their rival Impossible Foods.
Protein-based approaches have surprised me how far they've come in when they've been offered in burger chains. The demand has been quite good.
And he's invested into lab-grown meat as well, by backing companies like Upside Foods. And you may be thinking, okay, but why is this a bad thing? He can invest in whatever he wants. If people want to eat less meat, why shouldn't they? And if Bill Gates wants to invest in these things, he should be allowed to. It's a free country after all, right? And yes, it is, and they can do whatever they want. But what you gotta know is that plant-based meat and lab-grown meat are absolutely disgusting. The plant-based heme responsible for making the Impossible Burgers bleed comes from genetically modified soybeans, which have extremely high levels of estrogen, which are also raised in massive amounts of pesticides like Monsanto's Roundup, which is linked to organ damage in animals, cancer, and even non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in humans. Fake meat is also known to include MSG, known neurotoxins, and a giant long list of synthetic additives. It's basically ultra-processed food taken to a whole new extreme, and lab-grown meat is not any better. Lab-grown meat comes from genetically modified animal cells that have been immortalized to reproduce super fast and forever. They're basically cancer cells. These cancer cells are banned by the FDA in regular food production, and there is zero safety data on if using basically cancer cells in food is safe. These cells are also fed on massive amounts of monocrop soybeans, which again are extremely high in estrogen. And to top it all off, this whole concoction requires a ton of antibiotics to keep the mush from putrefying. And that carbon footprint is supposed to reduce, it turns out that lab-grown meat is even worse than conventional cattle farming. But none of that matters, because Bill Gates does not want these meat replacements to be optional, he wants them to be the only option. That might change very soon.
President Biden signed an executive order this year requiring federal agencies to support cultivating alternative food sources. Federal regulators are now deciding how lab-grown meat must be labeled, the final step before public sale.
And it isn't just the White House saying this either. Our good friends at the World Economic Forum are also pushing for fake meat and bugs too. Like this article, Burgers, Bugs, and the Shift to a New Way of Eating. But of course, subsidies are only half of the coin to eliminating cattle. Subsidies are like the carrots, but regulations are the stick. And a few countries around the world have already tried using the stick approach to ban beef. In 2019, Dutch farmers revolted when the government tried to force them to kill off half of the country's livestock. Irish farmers are being pressured to kill off hundreds of thousands of cows. And New Zealand has proposed a literal fart tax to reduce emissions and limit the number of cattle. The population is exploding. Cattle farming is killing our planets. We have to do something. But what if all these excuses are not the whole story? We're gonna have enough food to feed the world. So bug meat, of course. But the truth is that we have no idea how many humans the Earth can actually sustain. Population control groups have been fighting over the number for decades. The numbers have ranged from less than 1 billion to more than 1 trillion or even 1 sextillion, which means none of them actually have any idea what they're talking about.